What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Birds of the Roundtable. Today, our Eagles NFL draft coverage continues with a tier ranking, a big board, mainly focused on the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to break down the top targets for the Eagles in round one, grade them S to F. S is the highest, best fit imaginable. F is not a fit whatsoever. Joining me, my main man, Ryan Reese of Philly Sports Alliance. What's up, Ryan?
What's going on, man? Happy to be here. I love talking draft, as always.
Love it. And then we have the man of Chalk Talk. He is Shane, half and half _ TPL. What's up, Shane?
What's up, man? Always excited to hop on and talk about the draft. And it's been a while since we've done a Birds of the Roundtable. No Madden simulation today. We're going to have to find our way through somehow.
Love it, guys. If you're watching us live, comment with us, react with us. We're just going to go 5 prospects each and where we think they grade out, fit with the Eagles S to F. Let's start out with just S, and we'll go down from S to A to B to C. How about we just do that? Ryan.
Also, if you're watching live, also tell us if Dibe's screen disappears.
So. Yes, absolutely. We're having issues with some graphics. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's my internet. It's probably my internet. But I'll throw it to you, Shane. Do you have an S fit for the Eagles in the first round?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's not realistic at all, but Will Anderson out of Alabama, like he's one of 5 blue chip players that I have in this draft, and there is a 0% chance, aside from like the Laramie Tunsil video release, you get some video of Will Anderson dropping on draft night, smoking pot in a gas mask or something like that. This dude's not dropping to number 10, but Will Anderson would be a dream fit for the Eagles. He's undersized to be a DN, but he'd be a great outside linebacker, I think, in their scheme. Just would be a slam dunk. The Eagles would sprint that into the podium in Dreamland.
Absolutely. Will Anderson, S tier. Ryan, do you agree?
1,000%. I mean, he, with everything that kind of has come out of some other prospect, he's clearly the top non-quarterback of this draft. And obviously we're not looking for a quarterback, so Will Anderson would be an insane selection if for somehow how he trades up or something.
All right. Ryan, I'll throw it to you. Do you have another S tier for this big board?
I would say maybe a week ago I did. But some things have come out, and not terrible too much of a drop. But I think safe to say Will Anderson is my number one, only S tier currently at the moment.
Will Anderson out of Georgia. I fully agree. He's my 1A, and Will Anderson is my 1B. I love – we haven't gotten to do defensive tackles yet with Shane, but I think what Jalen Carter brings is something unique to the position. Having a pass rusher at that level, at that position is so dynamic for the position in the NFL. Like, these are the engines of what I call like the great defenses in the NFL. And I think Jalen Carter has all the hallmarks of like an Aaron Donald. His fit next to Jordan Davis would just be ridiculous. I think he's absolutely an S tier. What about you, Shane?
Yeah, I'm with you. I try not to take into account medical red flags and character red flags when I do my draft scouting, for the simple reason that I don't have access to the medical files. I don't have the ability to sit down in a room and talk to these guys. And so, although that's an important part of the process, I try to look solely at the player and the film and what they put out on field. And Jalen Carter is a phenomenal player. There is some concerns about him off the field. I'm not the guy getting fired if he implodes, so I don't have to worry about that. And I don't get the chance to talk to him and his coaches and all that sort of stuff and find out about it. So from where I sit, he's an S-tier guy. It's not the slam dunk that it was, if he were to fall. It's conceivable he could be there at 10. I would have said, a month ago there was no chance. And so that's why I have to preface now the Will Anderson thing with the comment about the gas mask video, because you never know. But he's a phenomenal talent. And I think the Eagles they've got a strong leadership core in their locker room. It's a veteran roster. You've got a good coaching staff. So I think as far as landing spots go, they could feel pretty confident about bringing him in and getting that under control.
Absolutely agree. Does anybody have any S tiers? Because I do not. I think these, for me at least, are the tier head and shoulders above everyone else.
We're talking solely for 10, right? Because I mean, there's some other guys that I'm like, those would be slam dunks at 30, but
right.
Okay, well, yeah, no, I'm good at 10 then.
Okay.
Yeah, just to kind of add, to my, it wasn't necessarily the off the field stuff for Jalen Carter. His pro day, he came in a little overweight. He looked really gassed through some of these drills that he should fly through. And believe me, it's I didn't drop him terribly too much. He's kind of like right in the middle between S and A. And I would also sprint up, break my ankles to go draft him at 10. So I just want to at least throw that out there.
And let's change it up. If there's a S tier fit for the Eagles at number 30, go ahead. But at least for me, I'm pretty much set with these top two kind of being in their own class. Anybody have another S tier?
I think I'm good there then.
Yeah.
All right. Let's throw it to A tier. I'm going to just jump right in and put this guy up. We went and talked about him a ton. I'm going to go Myles Murphy out of Clemson for my A tier. I've been all aboard the Myles Murphy train for a long time. I think his fit in Philly is perfect. Exactly what they need at that edge rusher, like future 3-down edge rusher at the next level. Amazing acceleration, snap, burst off the line. For me, Myles Murphy deserves a spot at A tier. Anybody have any thoughts on Myles Murphy and an A tier?
No, Stud player would love him.
Yeah, that's another no-brainer. At 10. Luckily for the Eagles, there's hopefully going to be one of these guys that kind of creep to them at 10. So let's go quarterbacks. Let's go offensive line. Let's go random person we didn't think was getting drafted in the top 10.
I'm definitely going to clip the part where Ryan just said, let's hope one of these guys falls to us at 10. Let's go quarterbacks.
Thank you.
Clipping that out and tweeting it.
Nice. Yeah. I'm going to get some hate on Twitter about that one. I love it.
All right. I'll throw it to you, Ryan. Do you have an A tier?
I do. Yeah. Just kind of, as we said, Will Anderson and Carter 1A, 1B. My 2A, 2B is Murphy and Tyree Wilson. I think that's, again, another no-brainer at 10. May not fall to us there, but, if he's available, I don't see how he passes him up.
All right. Tyree Wilson. There he is. There you go. Shane, any thoughts on Wilson?
Yeah, I like Wilson quite a bit. I've got him slightly below Myles Murphy on my rankings, but there's no denying his uniqueness. 95th percentile height, like the guy's just huge and he's athletic, and he had a really high pressure rate last year. I don't think he ever quite put it all together as a pass rusher in college, which is exciting given the fact he still had such a high pressure rate. But I think he's kind of versatile. Like, you could kick him inside some, and he's just one of those pieces that the Eagles would really like because you can move him around a little bit of everywhere.
Plus, he's a fantastic in run support. And that was, some of their weaknesses on defense last year. 3-down starter, guy that can really dominate against the run from day one. Anybody else have any other A tiers?
Yes.
Go ahead,
I will submit Peterskoronski.
Ooh,
offensive tackle / maybe offensive guard out of Northwestern.
Okay.
He was out of high school. He was a center prospect. He became a left tackle for Northwestern. He's a little bit on the smaller side to play tackle, so some teams may see him as a guard, which fits great for the Eagles, who need a right guard, and they may also need a right tackle a couple years from now. So I think you could grab Skoronski. You can play him at right guard right now, and maybe he is elite at that, and you leave him at right guard, and in 2 years you get a new right tackle, or maybe he's just fine there, and you know he's going to be a good right tackle, and he can become the Lane Johnson successor in a couple of years. So I really like Skoronski, and I like that versatility he has to plug in now, but also potentially be a right tackle of the future.
Any thoughts on that, Ryan?
Yeah, listen, he to me is definitely the number one offensive lineman in this draft, and it's definitely a need. We need to figure out what's going on with right guard. We need to figure out with what's going on with Lane Johnson down the line, and how he always loves to kind of think a few moves, think a few years ahead. So I think he would be an amazing prospect to come in here. Again, I think we've said it a billion times. When you have such an amazing offensive line already, you have an amazing offensive line coach, it just makes it so much easier for these rookies to kind of come in and assimilate themselves into this culture and find themselves, a lot further off than they would be elsewhere. So,
and Eagles fans have grown a lot, because 3 or 4 years ago, they would have hated taking an offensive lineman at number 10 in this situation. Now I think it's almost expected. I think Eagles fans would not be upset at all.
Nope. All right. Anybody else have any other A tiers?
I'll save it for B tier.
Yeah.
I'm on the fence with Christian Gonzalez. But I have Christian Gonzalez and Joey Porter Jr. and Devon Witherspoon all so close together that, like, if all three are on the board, I'd almost be a little disappointed if you took one of them at 10, because I think there's a really solid 3 there. So I'll save that.
Where are we at with Paris Johnson? Does he deserve A tier respect? Where are we at?
I think he deserves consideration. I think, right after Skoronski, it's him. And, dude is just massive. I mean, he is like, I think I read 36-inch and a half arms. Like, what? Like, that's like somebody's leg, but for arms. Like, that's huge. I just kind of am on the fence between A and B. And, I'll probably put him in B, but yeah, man, he's real close for me anyway.
I mean, let's be real here. Like, Paris Johnson played an entire season at right guard in 2021, so it's not like this, strictly a tackle prospect. We gave the props, the same kind of respect to Peterskoronski. So just throwing that out there.
It is a need again. I think everybody is just writing in, Cam Jurgens as our, right guard. I don't necessarily know if that's what the plan is, or if that's going to be something that's just going to be, oh yeah, just throw him in there, he'll be fine. So yeah, the fact that Paris Johnson has that versatility, has that experience. If we are talking Eagles and we are talking their needs, you know what? I think you may have convinced me maybe to throw him up to A. But again, if that's basically the way I look at it, if that's the pick at 10, will I be happy? Will I be ecstatic? Yeah, I think I will be.
I do too. I think he's a stud. All right, so we're gonna keep him at B tier. We have Anthony in the house saying Joey Porter Jr. is going to be a stud. We will get there. I promise you, Anthony. Does anybody have any other A tiers before we move on to B tiers? We're putting Paris Johnson in the B tier.
Yeah, I think we're going to flood the B tier in a second.
Anybody? Going once, going twice? All right, Shane, I'll throw it to you. B tier.
You just think about it. Presumably 4 quarterbacks are coming off of the board before pick 10. So you just need one other guy to come off the board, and you're at least guaranteed one of those A-tier guys. So, which is pretty exciting until Howie trades back from 10, which I'm almost certain is going to happen. But, for B-tier, I'll kick it off here with Christian Gonzalez. I love Christian Gonzalez. He's one of my blue-chip players in this draft. I love his potential at the cornerback position. Cornerback's not as well. It's not the pressing need that it was when we thought James Bradbury was going to walk. And then for that wild 24 hours where we got Bradbury back, and then it was like, oh, we're going to cut Darius Slay. Oh, no, wait. No, we're not. Whatever happened with all of that. But you still need it. You still got 2 outside corners over 30. And the Eagles have no depth at corner. Like, I don't think people realize how devastated the Eagles would have been to lose either Bradbury or Slay. Likewise, I don't think people realize how devastated they would have been to lose A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith. They're very good at the top 2 receiver and cornerback. They have no depth behind it. And so Christian Gonzalez, you could bring him in. You can get him into a little bit of a rotation, get him some playing time, but he would be top-notch injury insurance and hopefully a cornerstone for the future. Love it.
Ryan, any thoughts on that? And do you have any other B tiers?
Yeah, I got a bunch. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely one of them. And like you said, before free agency hit, I think most of us were looking at corner at that 10 spot. Just given the fact that we thought Bradbury was a goner, and it definitely was a huge need, and the fact that you have a couple of guys there. And you're looking at your S and A tiers, assuming that those guys are probably going to get drafted, and what's left is a couple of corners. So, I love Gonzalez. I'm going to add Witherspoon as my next B tier. Again, kind of same thing with him, and as we mentioned, Porter. Those 3 corners, I feel like, it's really about just kind of preference. Kind of at this point, there's 1A, B, and C. So I can't hate on anybody preferring one over the other. So, but yeah, Witherspoon at Illinois is just a stud in the making. And, as Shane said, outside of the top 2, which are old, you have Maddox, but he gets hurt every 2 seconds. You have Greedy Williams, who they just signed. He had a lot of potential, but he hasn't really lived up to it. Is it better than, what they have? Sure. But, again, you're always thinking of the future, and, I'm okay if that's the way that the kind of draft falls, is that we have to target one of these corners. And, you got a guy that can kind of learn the system, learn the NFL, and eventually take over as a number 1 corner in a year or 2.
Love it. I'm going to just go right ahead and throw Joey Porter Jr. in the B tier. I don't understand why his stock is falling a little bit compared to Devin Witherspoon at times. I go back and forth about it all the time. But he has, when it comes to measurables, when it comes to versatility, when it comes to upside, Joey Porter Jr. has arguably the same when it comes to comparing him to a Devin Witherspoon or a Christian Gonzalez. So Joey Porter Jr., man, he needs some respect. I'm going to put him on the B tier. Let me get the logo. This is not easy to do. I'm doing 1,000 things.
Yeah. You're doing amazing, by the way.
Doing the best I can. Does anybody have any? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I love how everybody shows up in a nice purple suit for you.
Does anybody have any other B tiers? Oh, wait. We have Anthony chiming in, says Lucas Van Ness, a B tier. Any thoughts on that?
Ooh. Yeah, that was one I was considering. But, I think if I'm going to throw another D lineman in there, I feel like I prefer somebody like Nolan Smith out of Georgia. He looked good on tape, and then he just blew up in the combine, which again, you always take with a grain of salt, but man, it was eye-opening. So you kind of have to, put some respect on it. I feel like at 10 though, it might be a tad early. I think if Howie were to trade back, which I personally don't think is happening. I think when Howie gets a chance at a top 10 pick, he's either staying or moving up. And I just think Nolan Smith might be a little bit of a stretch. Same with Lucas Van Ness. And I don't know if I'm comfortable putting them in a B tier yet.
I do like the pick at number 30, though. Nolan Smith 30 is a very good fit.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm okay with a B tier. And we can, make that, we can explain that pretty clear when we kind of go public with these rankings. But I think there's a few others at 30 that I would love to have, and he's right there. Any thoughts, Shane?
Yeah, I almost feel like we should change like the C, D, and F to like our S, A, and B tier for pick 30 because, to be honest, outside of the guys we have ranked right now, I'd be really upset if the Eagles took anybody outside of those guys at 10. So I don't even have a C or a D. Like I would throw everybody else in F tier for pick 10 because that's just kind of where I'm at. Like those are the really good players that you're in range for at 10, and if you're not taking one of those, I don't know what you're doing. So. I would not be happy with Lucas Van Ness at 10. If we're talking later, then sure, but I would be pretty disappointed if they took him at 10.
What should we do with Nolan Smith?
I think take him at 30. So I think, I like Shane's idea where we kind of have S, A, and B as our pick 10 and C, D, and F as our pick 30.
Okay.
He'd be a slam dunk. At 30 for sure.
I can do that. All right, Nolan Smith. All right. Any other B tiers for the Eagles?
Not for me.
Yeah, again, if we're talking pick 10, I kind of am right there with you, Shane. I think anybody outside of who we kind of have listed here might not be the happiest.
All right. Let me throw that there. I'm going to throw a B tier in. Want to hear your thoughts on this guy. Let me get the picture up here. But the guy I'm going to suggest
I just did think about it.
Kalijah Kancey. Kalijah Kancey out of Pitt. There he is. Let me throw him up there. I think defensive tackle is a big need for the Eagles. I think I picked 30. He's an excellent fit right next to Jordan Davis. I'll throw it to you guys. What are your thoughts on the fit for Kalijah Kancey?
Yeah, I would love Kancey at 30. I mean, we all know what Kancey is. He's super small, super explosive, and I think he's going to be best as like a penetrating 3 technique. If you can use Jordan Davis to help keep him clean, playing right beside him, I think that's really interesting. I do think he's a little more of like a fit for an even front, and the Eagles, at least the last couple years, have run an odd front, so it's not a plug and chug situation there, but you don't know exactly what it's going to look like, and they like to move guys around. They've done it with Milton Williams. They could do it with Kalijah Kancey. So I really like the player. I'd be happy with him at 30.
Right.
Yeah, I think his value, I feel like has just changed throughout this whole process so many times. It's I think he's more of a middle of the round type of guy that could potentially fall, but yeah, I think at 30 he would again be another slam dunk. I just don't know if I would be cool or happy with the number 10 selection. I think if we maybe move back a little bit.
All right. I'm going to throw another name out for B tier. That is Brian Branch, safety out of Alabama. We haven't talked about him. How he never drafts safeties. Everybody knows this. But you look at the Eagles' current roster, it's a huge need, arguably the biggest need. Anybody have any thoughts or fits for Brian Branch?
Yeah, Howie doesn't draft safeties, but Howie just watched Kevon Wallace take meaningful snaps in 2022, so maybe this is the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because, you have somebody who's obviously very talented, but you also have our history of knowing how we draft. And I think again, if I'm going to base this on my happiness level, I guess, if you will, at 10 and who we draft, if they end up drafting Brian Branch, would I be happy at 10? I think I would be. So I'm comfortable putting him in a B tier because at the end of the day, if we're coming out with Brian Branch at 10 and, hopefully maybe some D linemen at 30, I think that's a good first round.
Why doesn't this want to cooperate? Oh my gosh. Oh, we're going to redo that one. All right. Does anybody else have any other fits before we go to some questions?
I'm going to throw one your way that people might not like, but Darnell Washington at 30. Thoughts? I love Darnell Washington.
Love it.
The Eagles love to use 12 personnel. Darnell Washington is such a good blocker, and he's so athletic. Like, you think of how the Eagles use Dallas Goedert, and they can flex Dallas Goedert out some. He's such a good blocker. If you come out in 12 personnel with Darnell Washington and Dallas Goedert, you could be an empty, or you could have two tight ends on one side of the field and nub set and run duo behind them. And, like, they're both such good blockers. They're both such good receivers. It would take the pressure off of wide receiver 3, which the Eagles don't really have. It would give you another weapon. If Dallas Goedert goes down, when Dallas Goedert went down last year, Eagles tight ends in 5 games averaged 2 catches for 23 yards in that 5-game span. That's not ideal for a team that likes to use their tight ends so much. So I am in love with Darnell Washington as a prospect, and I'm pretty sure I would be unable to contain myself if they drafted him at 30. And I also think Eagles fans mostly would hate it, but I would be so happy on our live draft show.
I would mixed emotions, right? Mixed emotions, because I would be really excited for Darnell Washington, a prospect. The problem is this is arguably the best position in the draft when it comes to depth. Like Dalton Kincaid, Darnell Washington, Michael Mayer are there, but like there's some really other solid tight ends that probably could be had in a day 2, in a day 3, that kind of makes me pause just a little bit, especially when you have such bigger needs. Tight end's just not on that list. I would argue wide receiver is a bigger need than tight end. Any thoughts?
Yeah, you have to address something there. Like, Zach Pascal's gone. Quez Watkins got a performance incentive somehow. So he's like $2.8 million. They could very well cut or just get rid of him. You don't want to pay a guy that's that bad $3 million. I would love a wide receiver. I think a tight end could make sense, and I get a lot of pushback on that. But I don't know how you can watch Quez Watkins play last year and not think that you need an upgrade there.
Yeah, I fully agree. Tight end 2, wide receiver 3. I feel like, again, you could kind of go either way. Just knowing how much they love running that 12. I just think, a wide receiver 3 could easily be had in round 2, round 3, round 4. That could easily come in and be better than Quez Watkins. And to Dive's point, you have somebody like Sam Laporta, you have Kraft, you have a couple of guys that are, again, going to be sitting there in rounds 2, 3, 4 that, would be an upgrade over Stoll and Calcaterra. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. I think it's a lot bigger need than people are giving it credit, but I also feel like the depth at those 2 positions in the later rounds in day 2 and in early day 3 could get us exactly what we still need, and filling, some other positions that are a little bit larger need-wise.
All right.
Let me throw you one more name before we get to your questions, Dibes.
I also have one more too.
Okay. Osiris Torrance, right?
Woo! I like it.
It's the hole in the Eagles' offensive line. Obviously, you're not concerned about the offensive line with Stoutland, but Osiris Torrance is a straight guard prospect. He's not a guy that's moving inside from tackle. I think there's a good chance he's at least going to be there in the late 20s. I think there's a good chance he could be there at 30. how would we feel about Osiris Torrance at 30 to the Eagles?
Love it.
I'm good. I think he's the premier. It depends where you project Peterskoronski, but he's just an absolute mauler of a guard prospect. I don't think you could complain about Osiris Torrance, especially when it comes to the Eagles and their bread and butter being just having a dominant offensive line. He'd just be that plug and play from day one at right guard for the Eagles for the next 10 years. That's the problem. He doesn't have any versatility. He's a right guard or he's a guard prospect. So that then you kind of wonder what the prospect is for Cam Jurgens next year, right? And where that fits because Jason Kelsey's coming back.
Which
I'm kind of excited
back to our draft show last year. Was my complaint about Cam Jurgens. You're taking this guy and you don't even know when Jason Kelsey's going to retire. And now we're sitting here looking at, hey, Jurgens might waste the first 2 years of his rookie deal not even playing, which is frustrating. But I'm also not convinced that like in the profiling and stuff last year, nobody was saying like Jurgens could kick out to guard. I kind of wonder if that's just wishful thinking on our part. Maybe not. I mean, I would like for him to be able to do it, but
I worry about that. Honestly, I worry about that. People are just so comfortable with like, oh yeah, Jurgens, right guard, we're good. Move on, whatever. And if he turns out to be a great, we'll keep him there. We'll draft a center to replace Kelsey. Like it's that simple. I just worry about that he's not necessarily going to be that easy to switch out to guard. And, somebody like Driscoll is probably going to end up being the right guard if we don't address it in some other way.
Yep. All right. So Rufus has a comment here. I fought this fight last year. I'll die on my sword again. We need a safety. I would love Brian Branch at 10 and Nolan Smith at 30. I fully agree, Rufus. There's one big name missing he's been in the kind of the Eagles Twitter sphere over the last few weeks, and that's Bijan Robinson. And he's not on here.
Right. I was just about to say Bijan. He's actually in town for an official meeting, which I find, curious for sure. Obviously they went out and got Rashad Penny, whatever. That's probably just a 1 year, low risk, high reward kind of thing. And Bijan obviously is clear cut the number one running back prospect. I think 10 is way too early for a running back, just given the value of running back in the league. But at 30, if Bijan's there, and maybe some of these guys like Cansey or Nolan Smith and Torrance are all gone, I'd be hard pressed to pass that up, honestly. I mean, it's not a real big need, but man, he is talented.
Mm-hmm. So there it is. That is our quick kind of tier rankings of our favorite prospects. Let's move on here to some questions. I'll throw it to you, Shane, first. What is the best Eagles move they have made this offseason?
It's got to be getting James Bradbury back. That's not a move that I expected to happen. They get him back on, I think it was 3 years, $38 million, which is below market value for a guy that played the way that he did. Now, obviously, he's 30, or he's going to be 30 for the 2023 season, but I would argue he outplayed Darius Slay this year, and they were able to bring him back as it's a $3 million cap hit in 2023. We won't talk about the dead cap hit in 2026, but they brought him back for a below-market deal to push the chips in and try to go get a Super Bowl. So I love that move. It's not one I expected at all for them to be able to keep both starting corners.
All right. What about you, Shane?
Obviously, if I'm not going to say Bradbury, which I think is clearly the best move. Outside of that, I think, I really do like the Rashad Penny move. I've always liked this kid. Unfortunately, he's just, he always just gets hurt. But he has such a great, yards after contact, He's a bigger guy. I mean, you literally saw him at his press conference. He looks like a linebacker. I think Eagles fans are going to love him. And, again, if he can stay healthy with that offensive line, Miles Sanders was able to get a quite a good amount of yards before contact. So if you kind of add that all up, it could spell trouble for defenses around the league. And I just think we're not paying him much. It's very low risk, high reward. It's 1 year, and then you figure out, you continue to figure out what you're doing moving forward. So
awesome. Let's throw it to the other side, Ryan. I'll throw it to you first. What is the worst Eagles move this offseason?
I think it's honestly Fletcher Cox. I love a good story. I love, when a lifetime, player can stay with one organization, finish up. And that would be great for Fletcher Cox. He's been an integral part of this team for, a decade. I just hate the fact that we're just giving him so much damn money. I mean, last year we gave him way too much money. This year I feel like we're giving him way too much money, even though, again, he took a little less than he did last year. But, unfortunately, the Eagles are kind of, have their hands tied behind their back, and they kind of had to do it. I get it, but I just think that probably is their worst move, if you're going to call it that. Outside of, losing this person, that person, I don't want to call that a move, but so yeah, I'll say Fletcher Cox.
Shane.
Yeah, wait till he counts for $14 million against the cap in 2024, and he's not even on the roster.
Exactly.
I don't know if this qualifies as a move, but losing Denard Wilson, that really sucks for the Eagles. Was their defensive backs coach, interviewed, was thought to be a leading candidate for the defensive coordinator job. And I don't hate that you didn't hire him as your defensive coordinator. Did we freeze? Are you guys frozen? No? Okay. Everything's frozen on my screen, but you guys can still hear me?
Yeah, you sound good, but you're kind of like going nuts right now.
Yeah, you're in super speed mode, but you sound fine.
Okay, well, I'm going to keep talking then, and hopefully it works. It sucks that you lose that guy because the defensive backfield was so well coached over the last year or two when he was the passing game coordinator, defensive back coach. So you hate to lose that guy. I don't fault the Eagles for hiring outside. I don't think that's a bad thing, but it sucks that they weren't able to keep him and that he takes a lateral move to go to Baltimore to be their defensive backs coach. I wish that there was a way for that bridge to have not been burned, for you to pay him enough money, whatever, to keep him on board. I think it would have been huge for continuity in the secondary. So that one really stings for the Eagles. It's not necessarily a bad move, I guess. It's just Ryan took the bad move, and there's not really been another one. But that is something that didn't break their way.
All right. Let's roll on to our next question of our six-pack of questions here. Who is the NFL draft prospect you want to see in Midnight Green the most, Ryan?
The most, huh? Are we talking like quasi-realistic here? Because
yeah, let's be real. I mean, mine is by far Miles Murphy. He's kind of the deal breaker for me. Like, if in terms of the Eagles staying at 10 or trading back. Like, because I expect Tyree Wilson to be gone. I expect Will Anderson and Jalen Carter and all those guys. But if Miles Murphy's there, he's the one guy that I would say absolutely not trading back.
Yeah. All right. So I can't say Carter, Anderson, or Wilson, huh? Okay. Honestly, it's I just think for value's sake, I think Kancey at 30 would probably be my best player, because I think the value there would be amazing. It is a huge need. And honestly, it's anybody knows me, I love my linebackers. There's just nobody at 10 that I would, even consider drafting. And there's a couple of guys at 30 that I would, love, like Simpson and a few others. But I think Kancey is just the need, and I'm a pick guy too. So, obviously I like that. So, yeah, I'll say Kancey at 30.
All right. What about you, Shane? Who's the guy you want the most?
Christian Gonzalez. I'm a big Christian Gonzalez guy. I really like his film a lot. I think he would fit in great here in Philadelphia. So I would love it if he became a Philadelphia Eagle. Let's just get all the Oregon players years after Chip left.
All right. Who is the NFL draft prospect you want to see in Midnight Green the least? And I'm going to start off. And for me, honestly, I'm going to maybe cause a fire here, but it's Bijan Robinson for me. I do not want any parts of drafting a running back in round one. I think there's real depth on day 2 and day 3 at the running back position. I think drafting a running back in round 1 is a mistake given what Jalen Hurts does for their rushing offense, how they use their running backs. I think it would just be a misuse of resources for me. I've never been on board with Jahmyr Gibbs or anybody in round 1. For me, I actually absolutely do not draft running backs in round 1. What about you, Ron?
That is a good one, especially when you kind of put that caveat of first round. I mean, I personally, it would be hard pressed again to maybe pass on him at 30. But yeah, it's definitely not something that I would look for. It's definitely not something that I would, necessarily want because they have so many other needs. But man, who would I not want? A quarterback before round 7. No, I don't know. That's a great question. Yeah, I'm gonna say. Yeah, I'm just gonna say, somebody like a Lucas Van Ness at 10.
Okay.
For me, I could convince myself of a lot of these first round prospects, but mostly at 30, having them fall a bit. But at 10, it's just, I mean, how rare is it that we get to draft in the top 10? And you really, really got to hit the home run on this pick. And I just, there's probably a laundry list of players that I just want no part of at 10. So.
About Brian Brzee. Brian Brzee.
Oh, actually, that's actually really good. I don't know if I'd like him at 30 either.
That would be one of those kind of selection.
Like, all right, I get it. It's a need. Man, let's hope this dude pans out. But at 30.
Yeah,
Shane,
definitely not at 10. Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you guys fine. I don't know what's going on with the screen here, but the guy that I don't want, I'm going to go to the same position you did, Dibes. I don't want Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm not interested in seeing Jahmyr Gibbs in Philadelphia. I think he's a good player. I don't think he's a good fit for the Eagles. He's a receiver out of the backfield, and the Eagles don't throw to running backs. He likes to dance a lot behind the line, and the Eagles' line is so good, and the way they run the ball, they just need a guy that will stick his foot in the ground and go. And so, although Jahmyr Gibbs is a really talented player, I just don't think he's a good scheme fit for the Eagles. And so, I don't think they would take that in the first round anyways, but I'm not really particularly interested in Gibbs at all.
There it is. Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs of the players we do not want to see in Philadelphia. That's really interesting. Let's go to our next question. I'll throw it to you, Shane, first. The Eagles are a week into free agency. What, in your opinion, is the biggest position of need for the Eagles?
Man, safety. Well, here we go. So they need places they can draft a starter. Safety, right guard, linebacker, wide receiver. If you count your third wide receiver as a starter, which I would. Safety is the biggest hole, I think. You could argue linebacker, it's just not as impactful, but it's not a good linebacker class. So I'd say safety is the biggest need. I'd argue wide receiver would be the most impactful, though. But we'll say safety.
Anthony chimes in saying safety and linebacker. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, it's linebacker for me. They obviously have, not the greatest bunch of safeties right now. But outside of, a few plays here and there for Nakobe Dean, what do they have at linebacker? And we're basing all of this on the potential of Dean and the fact that he, had that one, second half when White went down and he led the team in tackles. And man, we're going to hold our hat on that. Listen, it's bare bones after Dean, and we don't know what we have with Dean. So I'm really scared right now, moving forward with what we have at linebacker.
Is it weird to say defensive line? Because like when I think of like the biggest need for the Eagles is they need to have an elite pass rush. If you're going into next year with those linebackers, with those safeties, like they absolutely have to dominate on the line again. And I think like a Miles Murphy is just would be a huge and critical selection just to kind of maintain status quo with all the change that's happening on the defensive side of the football. But I agree with both of those. Safety, linebacker, wide receiver 3, huge need. Running back, big need. But let's roll on to our last question of the night. Name an Eagles draft selection that would blow up Eagles Twitter for better or worse. Shane, who's your thought? Who's your guy on this one?
Well, I know this for a fact because I did it in a mock draft that I posted on Monday, but Jackson Smith and Jigba, wide receiver from Ohio State. I traded back from 10 to 17 and took Jackson Smith and Jigba, and people freaked out. Like they didn't just watch Quez Watkins drop a pass that would have won the Eagles a Super Bowl. Like, listen, if you hate the idea of the Eagles getting a third wide receiver because he would be the 4th target in the offense, go throw on Quez Watkins tape and then come back and tell me why you hate life. Like, and people will say it's a huge deal. Like, they've got 2 wide receiver ones. Why do you need to draft a wide receiver? Because they literally have no one else. If A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith goes down, your offense is done because you do not have receivers behind that. And so imagine adding a third guy who is competent in the NFL. Like, I would love the pick. Eagles Twitter would absolutely hate it based on my mentions yesterday.
Are you trying to say Greg Ward isn't right there ready to go? Come on now.
I would say JSN's my number 1 wide receiver in this group and a terrific fit for the Eagles. I'm going to throw that out there. What about you, Fred? Oh, go ahead.
It's crazy. People's pushback was like, how are you going to pay Jackson Smith and Jigba, Devonta Smith, and A.J. Brown? I was like, that's a 2027 problem. Let's go win 3 Super Bowls before then, and who cares? Like,
right.
at the end of the day, like the fact you're paying A.J. Brown so much and the fact you're going to pay Devonta Smith so much in 2 years is a perfect reason to go draft a rookie who is cost controlled on a fixed contract instead of playing the let's go sign a vet in free agency for $8 million a year game. Like, it's actually the perfect reason to draft a receiver, not to avoid one.
Yeah. All right. Rufus chimes in, says Bijan would make Twitter explode. And I Love Weed, our resident Cowboys fan, says, is the guy upright? So funny. Ryan, do you have one on this?
Yeah, I think it was Rufus that mentioned it. Bijan Robinson at 10 would. I feel like there would be this group that would absolutely love it and just celebrate it, and then the majority would be like, "What are the Eagles doing?" I just think it would be such a fun like Twitter civil war between Eagles fans. Of love and hate it, and I would just sit back and enjoy the show. But yeah, it's I agree though with Shane though. It's people are just so sleeping on wide receiver. It's like, well, how many times are we gonna get a wide receiver in the first round? Well, until we get it right, and we've luckily gotten it right. with Smith, and obviously trade for Brown. But yeah, you're right. There's not a lot behind it, so you got to figure it out. And why not go and get Cincinnati has 3 nice wide receivers. Why can't we? Let's score 50 points a game while we worry about our defense building up.
Yeah, you saw what having the number 1 defense in the NFL did for you when you played a really good offense. Just go be a really good offense. Like, defense does not win championships. Defense looks good until the postseason, and then you're not winning if you don't go score a whole bunch of points.
Agreed.
You know who would blow up Twitter? A trade up for like a Jalen Carter or a Will Anderson. Like, suppose hypothetically they just fall just a little bit. What if the Eagles actually traded up and gave up like a future second and got like a Will Anderson who could be literally learn under Hassan Reddick in the same role? That would be really interesting.
I don't think that is nearly as out of the realm of possibility. Howie, again, traditionally, when he's in the top 10, he doesn't move back. He moves up. And, again, if you're going to go quarterback, I could certainly see, the Cardinals maybe trading back. Somebody wants want to get in the quarterback game. And, yeah, I mean, if Will Anderson is sitting there at 5 or 6, my God, Howie, move up and go get him. Like, I don't think that's out of the realm at all.
Yeah,
that would be a great day for Twitter to explode. Let me tell you.
All right. Rufus says Robinson at 10, John Michael Schmitz at 30. I love John Michael Schmitz. We did our offensive lineman rankings. He's one of my guys, Rufus. I think he's great. No entry says I want him to trade up for William. Who am I missing? Will Anderson. I think that is. I love Weeds, his later crockpot, and other same name guy. Okay.
I saluted him, but he probably won't ever see it.
Right.
Right.
Have it in 10 minutes.
All right. So that wraps it up. I'll throw it to you, Ryan. Plugs, final thoughts on tonight.
Yeah, listen, there's over a month until the draft, so a lot is going to change. You never know, moves that Howie might make to set them up. But, as of right now, we got to take everything with a grain of salt and see where they are leading into the draft. I think what's nice is there are a bunch of positions there that are going to be available at 10 that we can hit, that'll come in and have impacts. We can get starters even, and even at 30. So I'm still super stoked where the Eagles are, and hopefully Howie does the right thing and continues to build this team. So I'm excited and can't wait to keep doing shows leading up to the draft. But as far as what I got, Philly Sports Alliance, follow right down there on Twitter. We got shows throughout the week. Make sure you follow on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Give a like, follow, share, all that fun stuff. We do always appreciate it. So, and of course, make sure you guys are following everybody here. This is, we all do this because we love it, and your support means the world to all of us. So we do appreciate it for sure.
Well said, Ryan. Shane, you're up, man.
You can follow me on Twitter at @halfandhalf_TPL. I'm on YouTube at ShaneHalfNFL, doing all kinds of draft stuff right now. Even though you can't see me moving at all. I'm a ventriloquist, if you didn't know that. I can talk without moving my mouth. StreamYard's garbage. That's my final thought. I am finishing stacking my big board this week, and I'm going to start releasing big board videos detailing all my top. I can't decide if it's 75 or top 100 guys leading up to the draft. So I've had a lot of work going into that on the front end, and I'll finally get to start releasing content. So I'm looking forward to that. And definitely just looking forward to the draft show, and then I guess the sadness that comes after the draft because there's no football for a while. But we'll get through it together. We'll podcast through it.
I'm literally already planning for 2024's NFL draft coverage. I've already started the books on that one. But yeah, we are Just so thankful for everyone that's watched one of our draft videos, commented on one of our draft videos. Ryan and I did an NFC East mock draft last Sunday, or was it Saturday? I'm not sure. One of those days.
I think it was Sunday.
Sunday. Had a really good response. Really fun. And we're gonna, I think, do what, the NFC North next.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna just continue breaking down those mocks across the NFC. Tomorrow will be Party on Broad. I have no idea what we're talking about. I'm sure it's more draft stuff. And then I've got another show that won't be live, but with Mark Schofield breaking down the cornerbacks and our favorites and sleepers and things like that. So don't want to miss that. Again, thank you everyone for watching, commenting. Please hit that like button. Subscribe if you feel like you want to. If not, no big deal. But he is Shane at half and half _TPO, one of the best football follows there is on Twitter, period, bar none. Down there, Ryan Reese of Philly Sports Alliance at Philly Sports PSA. For Shane, for Ryan, for myself, stay awesome, everyone.